about anchoring our label or our brand for this industry on the territory, we will now move on to the future. Because if Made in Morocco became reality as a label, its capacity for tomorrow and its ability to conquer markets and industries for the future, the one precious element would be its own petroleum, is talent. And so in order to make Made in Morocco upgrade itself to become synonymous with the strong added value, we must massively invest in human capital. So how are we to train, attract, and build talent that would create a collective intelligence and talents in this regard? This is the topic in our third panel, titled Innovating in Talent for Position in Morocco, a hub for future industries.
Cette question des ressources, nous allons l'aborder.
As a matter of resources, this is a topic that we will tackle accompanied by our panelists. I would like you to welcome them under your applause, ladies and gentlemen, Madam Mouna Benazou and Madam Yasmin Al-Haloufilali, the General Director of Forma 5, and Mr. Ayoub Daoudi, the President of the cluster, as well as Mr. Amin Brada Sunni, the Vice President of Human Capital for CGEM. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for these 45 minutes of exchange in advance on the conversation that will help us discover the skills to the service of the industry and the Made in Morocco label. So I would like to begin with you, Madam Mouna Benazou from Capgemini. You are a global leader that chose Morocco to establish a center of excellence. So concretely speaking, how are Moroccan talents present here in Morocco, mainly in Rabat and Casablanca, becoming international project attractors for international clients? So what is this powerhouse even about? Well, thank you very much, sir. And thank you for welcoming us. I would like to thank you for allowing Capgemini to be at such a prestigious event. So we are part of the Moroccan ecosystem representing Morocco every day. So this is a pride and an honor for us to be here. So thank you very much. To answer your question, the matter of talent is part of a study office and the Center of Engineering. The fact that the group trusts Morocco is not something that's done for free, because international groups are led by imperatives of performance, first and foremost, and for them to invest in Morocco 10 years ago means that they believed in Morocco to become a center of excellence on quite particular fields. And this has to do with what Morocco implemented for its industrialization. So to begin with the first idea, it has to do with focus. We support industrial sectors and the strategy that goes with it that His Majesty implemented, that is quite focused on particular industries. One, the automotive sector, where Morocco, we have the most mature center of excellence around the world on the automotive sector. This has to do with treating complex and complicated questions and working with the US, sending us these questions for us to find answers to them. And so this has to do with the projects we accompany. And so this has to do with the Mobilize Duo on topics that were 100% developed in Morocco. This is on the first topic. The second one is the aeronautics sector. The aeronautic sector in Morocco, despite all the crisis, the industry trusts Morocco, and you can see the real results of it all. So this has to do with tackling big topics. At the Center of Excellence, we have 4,500 engineers that works on topics that no group could trust any other country to deal with it, other than us. For other strategic sectors such as the pharma sector, I would like to turn to you, Madam Filali, as the General Director of Pharma 5. In these sectors, we have such a requirement of skill and expertise that is quite cutthroat. And so what are the main challenges in terms of training, and how are you to overcome these issues related to representing Pharma 5 in face of all the challenges? So thank you very much, and hello everyone. I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to having me to talk about our highest form of elements, which are the human element of Moroccan talent. And so we are in a sector that is quite regulated, and it is a topic that, or a sector that is ever evolving. So within 5 years of experience, the industry has completely changed. The methods of manufacturing that went from a method that was a bit traditional towards a completely automated method with sensors and everything that has to do with AI. So for this, we must implement a few systems of training that would allow us to have skills not only for the meantime, but for tomorrow. So for us, as part of Pharma 5, what we created is we need to know that once we began, I conducted an interview with a person. I asked them, why would you like to join Pharma 5? And they said, because I was told that if I come here, I'm going to learn and I'm going to study more. I need more work, but I was told that Pharma 5 teaches people and helps them. And it's true that we have always trained people on the new technologies at hand, but also on all of the skills, the soft skills needed to help them work as part of a group or a team. So at Pharma 5, we have an academy of training, the Pharma Academy, working around the clock all year long with specific training programs that are quite adapted to our needs. This is because in Morocco, this is becoming more and more thanks to the various universities, faculties, and foundations with which we are creating partnerships, because in order to innovate, we must work together to make more progress, because otherwise we wouldn't be doing well. And so it's thanks to these partnerships that we were able to develop. We succeeded in having people who are quite at the top of skills. And these skills are also evolving at the same speed that regulations and technologies are evolving. By exploring machinery and automation, we are joined by Mr. Daoudi, who is representing a whole new cluster. So my question to you is, what would it be useful for in terms of identifying resources and skills that are qualified for such sectors? Well, I would like to begin by thanking you for the invitation, Mr. Wadi, and for the organizers. So I'm going to pick up where you left off when it comes to the true mutation in the industrial sector. So there is quite the orientation towards what's digital and what's automatic. And it is clear that if we would like to stabilize what we were able to capitalize on all over Morocco and to project ourselves into the technologies of tomorrow and the new industries where everything is going to be automated and connected. And after all of the governmental policies of vertical integration of the new ecosystem, I believe that it's quite natural to see beyond the ecosystems of production and to develop how to surmount this competition with human industrials with the aspect of innovation in terms of means. So this has to do with the means that go into productivity and to tackle the industrial innovation head on. And so with the presence of His Excellency the minister, we launched this cluster in order to try and begin working on the industrial level to allow companies to have their a level of competition or an edge on the competition with additional resources to tackle tomorrow's challenges, because we're not going to be faced with low-cost competition, but we have technological competition on the way. And so this competitivity with technology is what this cluster does in order to be able to work on the efforts to accompany our industrials and the entire ecosystem in terms of machinery and automation. Amin, Brother Sunni, representing the human capital in CGM. Based on what was mentioned so far, what is your diagnosis on the main challenges related to the offer for training as well as the needs for the industrial endeavors in Morocco? Thank you very much, sir, and I'd like to thank the Ministry for having invited me to be with you at this event, because this is the fruit of our discussions on evaluating everything that's being implemented currently. So the Commission on Human Capital, as part of the CGEM, looks at the glass half full. There are many positive things that are implemented, many means that are deployed into the effort, and there are many gains as well. However, if we take a look at the innovative index, we are the 55th as part of the 139 countries in terms of innovation. It's not bad, but it's also not good enough. I believe that there's still much more room for improvement, and this shows that Morocco has really progressed over the years, meaning that we are making strides in this regard. And so now there are means on the CMCs or campuses, jobs and skills, and so maybe it's not there's not much being done in terms of software, because we invested enough in hardware but not enough in the software, because this is where we have room for improvement in order to recruit and train trainers for all of these training centers, and to have the right governance to guide the offer or the production of education and training at the request of the industries. And so this has to do with bridging the gap between universities and job markets, and many universities such as the UM6P, many good things are being done at the level of universities to go from the classroom to the market. And so this has to do with PhDs or PhD holders for the industry, or those who secured loans for applied research as part of the industry stimulation, etc. So all of these efforts must be strengthened on top of an industrial culture, much more agility, as well as curricula that's well thought and well reflected upon, which would be quite adapted to the needs of the market, as well as everything that has to do with renewable energies, and a certain amount of skills to be developed, as well as softwares and soft skills, as well as the rebellious spirit of taking everything with a grain of salt, really, to have a critical thinking kind of spirit. And so this all goes as part of the curricula of training, and so I am sure you know what I'm talking about in this regard. So that is all on that part. As for the system of training, it must be working. So this has to do with reimbursements to allow companies to train more lives, and to have this to have all of this changing very, very quickly. We cannot make a training that's adapted to the needs of yesterday. Ayub Dawdi, I will go back to you now when it comes to the vocation or the role of your cluster, which has to do with the implementation of some collaborations related to the industrial sector, universities, research centers, and training centers. So, based on your opinion, what would be the move on the strategy to be deployed? Well, listen, we cannot really talk much about innovation as part of the cluster around the industrial means without really talking about the process of innovation, as well as involving the stakeholders who need to know what's happening exactly at the level of universities. So this is where indeed we were able to work on an initiative for identifying pilot projects to be able to meditate or to mediate on the needs of the industrial's needs, and what the sponsors can do in order to involve more universities to deploy more means to produce the talent that would be integrated tomorrow in the Made in Morocco label on the perspective of machinery and automation. So this has to do with everything related to the marketable talents on the long term. Universities indeed are an important element that touches upon all sectors for machinery when it comes to mechanics, robotics, and as well as many other disciplines that are quite large. Mona Bnazu, do you have any precise idea on what are the most researched upon current contexts related to branches for the future centered around the 4.0 industry, generative AI, or green energies? Well, I mean, you've already answered the question in your own question. We're not only talking about 4.0 industries. We're talking about industry 5.0, Gen AI, XAI, etc. And so technology is going so far that there are trends every day. Before it was at a rate of 5 years, now it's 3 years, and then it's going on by going even faster, and it's hard for us to keep up. Otherwise, we would be really left behind. And so there are some things that are really involved in the reality of things. So the automotive sector is an important one, and we talked a lot about SDGs, and so without car manufacturing, we wouldn't have the plastics and metals as well as all the other raw materials that would apply into the training of skills and talents. And so the Chinese have done it perfectly, and they have shown how we can be as powerful on the side of software as well as for the hardware. And so to get back to your first question on the part related to AI, a mechanics engineer without a background on AI. I'm not talking about generative AI because it's something that's too specific, but AI, generally speaking, would not be, he wouldn't survive on the job market. And so because data is something that's quite important, and the fact that data analysis and not just crunching, data analysis with a critical thinking skill mentioned earlier, if we don't have these elements, we would not be able to perform. And so there are stakes of competitiveness that push us to become more creative, and Moroccans do this very well. It's one of the sources of pride for us for each year. Morocco is always part of the top 3 in everything that has to do with the innovation patents. In 2025 alone, we were able to submit 15 patents, and so this is linked to being creative and seeking everything that has to do with striking the difference between jobs that are jobs of the past and jobs of the present. Mechanics will never disappear, and that's why we need to innovate more in mechanics, for example, etc., etc. So this leads us to the next question for Yasmin Al-Halou, as the president of the Moroccan Federation of Pharmaceutical Industries. In a sector that's quite competitive such as yours, how do you think about the loyalty of your talents? So how does it go? Is it based on job condition or salary or values? It really does go by the values and the corporate culture, really, because currently talents are not retained by salary. It might have been the case 30 years ago, but now we retain them by giving them sense to what they are doing. And in order to do so, we must allow them to participate as part of participatory management. So this is what we're doing as part of Pharma 5 for a long time now. We were able to develop an entire program on well-being called PharmaCare. And it's very important to mention how they must feel very good about their work environment itself. We must also give them the ability to understand and develop their skills. So this would allow them to feel quite useful. And we see this even currently with the Gen Z, where the young have this entire aspect of RSE, or socio-environmental responsibilities. And so our talents are involved in everything that contributes towards protecting our environment. This is quite the crucial aspect that enters into or delves into the policies of our choices related to the strategies on skills. Mr. Amin Baradasuni, this war on talent, it's a global one. And so, is there a national strategy for CGM that is projected to attract Moroccan talent from abroad, or to promote for? Well, the question wasn't asked in the right way, but I'm going to answer it anyway. CGM is really related to the Commission on the Climate of Affairs, and so CGM is really devoted to working on that as an issue that we are tackling as part of the major role that we are doing in order to work on our attractivity. And so Morocco is a good destination thanks to the storytelling that we have and the narrative that we got. Morocco is reflecting on the other economies. There is a continuous growth that has to do with many opportunities that are being created as we speak. And then there are specific initiatives of exchanges, and then we create exchanging events in order for us to work on the soft power. And Morocco is good at its soft power throughout initiatives coming out of the UM6P, for example, where CGEM is promoting everything that has to do with the various authorities of the government to promote Made in Morocco as a label. So salaries are attractive, and the brackets are quite high, and for me, I've been to many countries in this regard, and I would say that Morocco is one of the countries that pay better in Africa. And so we are quite competitive, we are quite attractive, we have good storytelling, and I think that we are doing good in this sense. At the level of machinery and automation tools, there are major challenges related to specific jobs to be attracted. And so this would allow for careers to be more attractive, to develop specific skills in AI tools and machinery. Well, listen, the cluster is too young to talk about its experience, but I can still respond to tell you, as part of my company, indeed, this cluster has the idea of promoting this idea for the Moroccan industry as a whole. I believe that we can talk about Gen Z that's attracted by technology, and so we have good Gen Z, and so they have lots of critical skills. And the reality of things is that we have an engineering center of over 300 engineers with a rate of 20 patents per year, and a generation of engineers who are quite attracted by this freedom of action, because it's important to give them this space to be able to innovate. The third element that we must mention in this context is that Morocco is attracting more and more talents, because we have about 20 or so supervisors coming from abroad to participate in this experience. And so Morocco is attracting more foreign Moroccan talent, and we have to maintain the synergy, and we need to work with the components of success and the ingredients that can be deployed. And so, based on my experience, I see many young individuals under the age of 30 who are international experts. And what's important here is that we need to work on how to reach out to companies with careers for technical expertise, in order for our youth to evolve in other careers related to management. And so this also enters into about a good set of people who are PhD students and PhD holders, who have this thirst for knowledge and to really upgrade this expertise. And so we are using our cluster in order to impact all of this entire industry.
The solution could come from the interior while creating the good training. Muna Benazu, how can a group such as yours collaborate with the academic ecosystem and schools and universities in order to have good trainees? We've been doing this already. It's one of the strengths of Morocco, and that's what we call Skills Factory. And it exists only in the Moroccan branch of our group, which is to prepare the talents you mentioned earlier. What are the constraints that we'll have 3 or 4 years from now? Well, here we prepare young people who will be professionals in 3 or 4 years, but we don't do that alone. We had the chance to contact or to have conventions with the Ministry of Education so that we can have bespoke masters to meet the needs. Of course, there are commitments from one party or the other. However, we can do it. In Morocco today, we have masters on topics that will be useful in 3 or 4 years from now. It's important to work on skills that don't exist now. That's the first point. The second, today we have academia that's globally renowned. Our academy, there are French, Americans, etc., who are trained with Moroccans on in the aeronautic field. This allows us through 3 or 4 years. It's a training of not a week or two. It's a training for 3 or 4 years. It allows for experts to join us and be in front of the stage where there's a need. In internships, etc., we receive hundreds of internship requests. It's a lab that's a win-win. Of course, young people came and they adopted several initiatives. We're steering and we will accelerate this. Alternatives is also a tool that we adopted. Today we started with the field of engineering. We welcome between 30 and 40 students. It's a commitment for 2 years so that these students are ready and they work on topics that they were trained at. It's important also research areas, research offices. Okay. We are not working on topics of the present, but topics that will be useful and will be a matter of focus in 2 or 3 years from now. For example, hydrogen, etc. These ingredients allow us to attract businesses, and we're very delighted. Yasmin Filali, you focus on the importance of collective intelligence. How do you see this as something favorable? How can this be translated into concrete elements, for example, in medication that's made in Morocco? Yes, I insist on collective intelligence because a company on its own cannot innovate. And it could be too late. In order to innovate, you have to work collectively so that you obtain all the necessary resources. how it's translated at the level of medications. With my hat or my role as someone who works in a pharmaceutical lab for over 40 years, and we worked on a generic form of several medications, and we've been competitors to foreign companies and train our staff. This allows us to produce medications for various pathogens, for example, tuberculosis or consumption. And in the last 5 years, a lot has changed, and we've reached this collective intelligence at the local level. During COVID, where all borders were closed, we saw the fragility of this international dependence. With the state, we were able to develop the COVID tests instead of importing them. That was the fruit of Moroccan intelligence. Also, the use of cannabis, or the collaboration with the state, UNRWA, or foundations or research centers. The sector could evolve from all the way from agriculture to medication production. That's the importance of collective intelligence. This collaborative work that's being done with all stakeholders allows for the integration of the entire supply chain. We talk about agriculture, purification, then we make the medication. It's an example there, I hope give you an idea. It's an example of competence and local expertise. I mean, Barada, talking about this the expertise, the private sector, what role can it play side by side with the state in order to develop professional continuous training or continuum training in order to keep pace with this evolvement of the need for labor? Well, we're in a constantly changing world, and we see a world that's changing at a rapid pace, unprecedented, and we have to adapt, and we have to ensure flexibility and agility. At the level of the Committee of Human Capital, we work with the state, especially with National Office of Capacities, so that we support enterprises. I'd like to say that unfortunately some things don't work, and it's incredibly important to have the right laws for this training so that we allow enterprises to be financed, because enterprises have to train their staff because of the added value they get. They have to do it, and there's also a mechanism that's there, and everyone is in agreement. Why it's 25 years? Why the law is not amended yet? We must obtain the law regarding the CSFs. It's something that's so important, but doesn't work yet because the law is not amended. Mona Benazou spoke of this earlier. so that Morocco is a pioneer, and why not? We have innovation in Morocco. We see more innovation. Yeah, Morocco today, and I mentioned this before. We focus. We have a clear long-term strategy, and we have to build something that's precious. Among the things that's very important is to keep this agility that allow us, and it's no secret there's a crisis of automobile sector. Allow us to keep growing is our capacity. We can't penetrate a sector that's difficult, for example, in nuclear. And some Moroccans today work in this sector, this field of nuclear. This capacity of reinvention and keep being agile, and it's differentiated by value. We say a lot that we can't win the battle of costs. There are many countries that cost less. However, we must ensure to have value and to work on complex topics and have projects that with less competition. And all the clients say that we have dynamism and commitment from our youth and motivation. We're highly modest. We're going to do what we do, and this is a force that we have to keep pushing onward. Please give this young youth the ability to keep on putting Morocco where it should be. Thank you very much for these kind words. Yasmin Al-Halouf. It's a concern, it's a necessity in your sector. How Pharma 5 could keep encouraging research and development within within businesses. Within businesses, you have to provide all the means to young people in order to express their ideas, to have a space to deposit their ideas, share them, and train them well. Train the supervisors first and managers, so that managers could give trust to this youth. And at Pharma 5, we are establishing a lab, an innovation lab. We started in the form of a small interviews, each or small contests. Someone could, no matter his position, could express their problem and suggest solutions, and we have a jury who will choose the best idea. And we noticed that it encourages people at the level of marketing, at the industrial level. It could be someone from maintenance team, and this generates many ideas and it creates innovation. And it's a system that's powerful, and it helps also train people, because there are some processes to in thinking, identifying the problem, and suggest new ideas. It's an approach that we could see in your store hub, Sir Dodi, and targeting your or trying to achieve industrial sovereignty. To what extent can you imagine a strategy or some actions in order to reduce this dependence on importations and have a more robust basis for the Made in Morocco brand or label? We're at the heart of industrial sovereignty. If we don't master this tool, will be fragile. We shall say that all international investments are investments that move throughout the world, across various markets. These investments pass through the development of such ecosystems. We have to develop this sovereignty around certain means, and also sovereignty is a tool that's very important for competitiveness. And out of all that, having an ecosystem with strong added value, we employ engineers, highly qualified technicians. You know, sometimes a large proportion goes to engineering. I believe that these three elements are important. There's industrial sovereignty, another element for competitiveness, and another one for value creation, added value creation, so that it becomes an exporter or an exporting sector. I spoke of Switzerland, which is a very important sector for them. I can also mention Germany, Austria. So the idea here is to position Morocco in a good position while creating a new exporting sector for the kingdom. I would like to go back to a very important element. The capital, the important capital is the human capital here, especially the youth. Yeah, that's true. It's the link. Mr. Amin Barada from the SGM. An initiative to take in terms of a human capital. How can we guarantee that the label made in Morocco becomes a synonym for added value in a sustainable manner? First, I'll give you statistics. Only 1% of businesses conduct continuum training. Others can do it, but they don't. So what we do at the National Office of Professional Capabilities, etc. In a world that's constantly changing, we can't have a strong and performing and innovative economy with only 1% of companies. So the companies have to train their staff, and we have to amend the law. It's something key to encourage enterprises or businesses innovate and train. Secondly, the Code of Labor. It's a matter that SGM is advocating for its amendment because it will be key for innovation, key and important for taking risks. You have to modify several levers that are on several and amend several provisions in the Code of Labor. Thank you very much, lady and gentlemen, for talking about innovation, capacities, etc. Please, a round of applause. Mona Nazu from Engineering Morocco, Yasmin Lahlou from Pharma 5 or Pharma 5, Ayub the head of Cluster Intellectual Automation, and Emir Barada from Human Capital Institute. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once again. Please join me on the podium for a group photo that will commemorate this moment in this third edition of the National Day of Industry. And because you shared with us the importance of research, training, and innovation in order to move forward with the Moroccan industry. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'll let you go back to your seats, and we'll carry on right away with some testimonies about the importance of human capital and talents in order to construct the industry of tomorrow and make it more agile. We'll welcome two entrepreneurs who work in two major players. First, I'll receive someone who you know very well, Mr. Mohammed bin Ouda, General Director from Deba Technology. Ladies and gentlemen, do your applause. Sir, the topic that you chose for us today, Society X.0 in the era of dataism and AI. We'll listen to you attentively, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I would like to thank the Ministry of Industry and Trade and CEJRM for inviting me for this talk of inspiration. We had a very important panel. I would like to share with you today a confliction, a model of society that I called Society X.1. We spoke of AI, export oil. We spoke of dataism and AI. Finally, everyone is rushing towards this activity or reinvention, and today we can move to AI and dataism. First, we live in a world that's vulnerable, anxious, and difficult to understand. And there are many trends, and for example, water scarcity, food security, and climate change, health crisis, also rivalry, American rivalry, especially with the presence of AI and new technologies. And also we see some crises, for example, the Russo-Ukrainian war, the COVID-19, etc. We all live in this, managers, business owners, throughout these complex moments, and we think of ways to reinvent our business models. I had some deep questions or some deep conventions. What do businesses serve? What's their purpose? It's something that we learned in schools in order to create profits or gains. That's why we create businesses. But before 2010, we had authoritism, which was a good school where I worked in Valencia in the production of Toyota cars. I worked with that company and I spent some very important moments that changed the way I thought. We moved from Toyotism to what's called Teslaism. Then COVID came and everything changed. Everything changed, and that's how ABBA technology was created. It was created with two paradigms. With societal changes, we spoke of humanity at the center, technology at the service of the planet, and Ms. Lahlou talked about looking for the balance, etc. And also there was technological advancements. When we live in a society that's dominated by maximum profits and dissemination of new technologies, and there were many studies by Harvard and by Oxford. They talked about a cognitive decline just because of AI. Which means, will we have humanity that serves technology, or will we use technologies to serve humanity in order to solve some deep problems. And here, as the heads of businesses, we say, is it in our favor or no? Example, do we have 10 million, 15 million profits, buying ships, buying yachts, etc.? Where are we going? We have to share this wealth. We shall say, what's the role of society? What's the role of businesses? Is it just generating profits or something else? And for Abba, we said if we reach a point where we develop technologies that serve humans and with humanitarian purposes, for example, education, health, or reinvent the economic models, and we've been always human-centric. So the real aspiration came from His Majesty. His Majesty is the compass, the voice. In 2019, and here's a quote from His Majesty: Morocco has become a place where we have to put the citizen at the heart of public policies, which means that we have to embark businesses and business owners and everyone, and how we can contribute to this new model of development with successive calls. And for example, such events, for example, this day, to bring us together and to put solidarity at the heart of this transformation. And here we can see how Morocco handled the COVID crisis, and His Majesty insisted that there are two Moroccos, or and there's an unfairness where there are differences between rural and urban areas. Data are mentioned in his speech to the parliament, the importance of data. This royal vision is a compass, and today the society X.0 could be technologically human. And from this starting point, about technology is part of this path of sovereignty, because we invest in technologies of 4.0, of health tech, smart city, and we see that a group that trains or that employs hundreds or thousands of employees and invests in technologies and focuses on industry, we could be competitive, we could create value, we could create jobs and impact society. Look here, for example, we're here at one of the mines of Managem, with the high-end technologies, the use of AI and GenTech. And Mrs. Capella mentioned this. We speak of GenTech and not only AI. There are systems that supervise the pipelines, the mines, etc. Of course, thank God, the Moroccan engineering is capable of surpass and create latest technologies, and His Excellency mentioned that yesterday. We have to move to the high technology phase, and that's the challenge that we're facing at the moment. Another video or another example. Today, there are many solutions.
Assist him, presided over the launch ceremony for the Connected Mobile Medical Units program. This royal initiative, dedicated to providing healthcare access for populations in rural and remote areas, was established through a partnership between the Mohammed V Foundation for Solidarity, the Ministry of Health and Social Protection, and Mediate Technology. Together, they successfully deployed 100 connected mobile medical units across 9 regions, 50 provinces, and 100 localities, with a capacity to treat over 1.5 million patients annually. Each unit is staffed by 1 doctor, 2 nurses, and and a welcoming host or hostess. The units are equipped with certified connected medical devices, allowing for both general consultations and specialized examinations. Following the successful launch of the Royal Connected Mobile Medical Units program, His Majesty King Mohammed VI, may God assist him, inaugurated the second phase of the program. This new phase, guided by the insightful leadership of His Majesty, aims to further strengthen the national healthcare system in rural areas. Project includes 2 telemedicine platforms, one in Casablanca and one in Rabat. These platforms are staffed with specialist doctors who diagnose and treat patients in rural and remote areas by connecting with them through telemedicine. Mediate's control tower, dedicated to managing the cold chain for medicines and vaccines across all health centers in Morocco. Operating in partnership with the Ministry of Health and Social Protection, the control tower ensures the tracking of medicine and vaccine quality during transportation and storage. It also enables rapid technical interventions to prevent damage to these vital resources.
Voilà, donc ce qu'on voit à travers cette vidéo, c'est qu'on voit que la technologie peut être au service.
So thanks to this video, you can see how technology can be to the service of humanities using taking care of 1 million patients, which means 350 patients per day all over the country. So this is something for all over the country, even the rural world. And so we can see that now we can build technology in Morocco. It's very important, and that we can deploy it very quickly, and we can render it accessible to the population necessitating such needs. And so this is the case for the health and the industry, and I would like to share with you a few more figures that we were able to attain with Mr. Said Barada that led us to having pioneer schools in colleges and primary schools in order to train the young to produce technologies and not just to consume them. So you can see here in the video some classes for pioneer schools for kids of 11, 12, 13, 15 years coming from quite modest families, to give them the environment in a way that would help them produce electric cars and develop robotics, not just use robotics. They tell you that they are learning robotics, but that's not the case. They are producing robotics, how to invent and how to be producers of technologies. So this is the untapped huge potential when it comes to skills. Really, it's really huge. So these are quite simple elements that would allow us to give liberation to talents and energies of kids. I think that the answer lies within the education of young individuals who would turn to become tomorrow's engineers. In China, we're talking about 3,200,000, and so if you divide it, it leads to 0.25 per thousand, meaning that we have to produce 1,000 engineers to just catch up to China's numbers. And so 100,000 engineers is 350,000 bachelors and others that drop out of school, meaning that we have to invest in continuous training in order to catch up to this youth abroad, and to also work on the dropouts to expand the pool to 500,000. And if we train them from the beginning, we could reach 100,000 to catch up. And so the answer lies in the education in the rural world and in the industry. And it is up to this model that the Society 5.0 is not something that is luxurious, but it is a living compass that goes beyond the technologies for the service of common humans. And so this has something to do with the inclusive economy, and this has nothing to do with the profits. If we do not believe in wealth, it's beyond us. An infrastructure that is sustainable throughout time. Sustainability was already talked about it, but shared knowledge must also help us work on our knowledge to be shared, and the SDGs or RSEs, etc. So that's why we have to draw inspiration from this openness, for the revision of the societal model to make humanity, technology, and the planet at the heart of our model. So by that, I would like to thank you all for your patience and your attention. Thank you very much, Mr. For your presentation. Thank you very much for everything you shared with us. And now we will hear from another entrepreneur who will tell us more about his trajectory on the perfection of strategy, support to innovation, and the promising startup that benefited from support to innovate and develop. It's Mr. Badr Boutaleb, the General Director of Ambitech. Hello, and thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for this warm welcome. Our perspective today is about Made in Morocco as our label and theme of discussion today. So we're going to take it on a new, fresh take, which is the startup part of it all. We are quite a particular startup since we have launched our first patent and product by seeking funding, and so we were able to work on funding, leading us to a second patent and a second product, then 3, 5, 10, 20 later on, and we ended up wondering whether we would like to keep being a startup or to pivot towards R&D offices. I will start by the generalities by telling you about the ingredients which will lead up later on to share with you my case. I'm not going to delve into the detail, but Made in Morocco is about national sovereignty, national industrial sovereignty. And so in this case, the answer has to do with being holistic in the ensemble of the industries and everything that has to do with the aggression in the competition. And so that's why we need to choose our battles wisely, and doing so will help us with the building blocks of the industry to capitalize on opportunities later on. And the end goal here is to be at an equal pace with our correspondents, whether regardless of who they are and where they're from. So the second idea I'd like to share with you is on industrial sovereignty, but when it comes to the technologies. So technology is what will allow us to come and be part of the industry in an upstream kind of manner to find our footing, and then slowly develop our technologies in a way that would help us in the position, in the winning position on the battlefield. And so this has to do with startups related to disrupts. And so indeed, as you can see, as a startup, we usually have cutting-edge technologies. And so this has to do with the courage to discover solutions that are bigger, that bigger companies would be too reluctant to explore. And this is because as a company, as part of a market, you have the product and the competitivity, etc. And your first reflex would be to consolidate your position on the market. This means that there is a number of solutions that you will be reluctant to explore naturally, so because you have to compete with your own product, and this leads to a certain case where you would be cutting your own branch that you're sitting on. And so this is quite the reluctance in order for companies to reach a few solutions. The second idea is that as a startup we are able to pivot very quickly to have the agility needed to deploy our solutions. And the third idea is, as a startup, we would be able to adapt what I call technological building blocks about architectural, battery-free electrical architectures, easy-to-assemble modular structures, ultra-lightweight and flexible exoskeleton concepts, etc., etc. So talking about examples, I'm going to take a certain amount of examples, such as our previous product, by comparing a certain amount of technologies where we were the precursors to what we have today. So this is our first exoskeleton patent versus the Chinese exoskeleton. And so our central innovation in this patent has to do with positioning ourselves in a spot that is constraining on the market, where everyone is working on structures related to the handles, love handles, thighs, and the lower back, with the possibility to do things differently and to place an exoskeleton in a certain way that makes it so that the center of all strength that placed in the lower part of the skeleton. And so we have a small bone, the small backbone, that is the center of the core power for our bodies, and this allows us to make it so that our exoskeleton is much more lightweight and much more cost effective at the same time. As you can see here on the right side of the slide, it's Hypershell, the new exoskeleton made in China. And then our patent of 2016, our first exoskeleton. Hypershell was created in 2021. They needed 4 years to come out with this exoskeleton. It's with the same concept, with much more means, much more funds, and with the same technology. The image that you can see here on the left is our mine clearing robot, and it has two functions, and so it has to do with a detector in mines and detecting mines where it will be deployed. And so this has to do with all of these rollers, cylindrical premier blocks, and it goes directly to the mines without any detection, and to deploy to be deployed in the mines in order for for all of these blocks to be replaced later on. To the right, you have the Military Innovation Award of the year 2025 in Europe. So it's the same one, much bigger, with much more means. So this has one mode only for cylindrical primer blocks. 2 years of research between Morocco and the rest of the world. I'm showing you all of this is not just to brag about the experiences and the lacked opportunities that led to this plagiarism, etc. But all of this is to say that at the end of the day, the topics that we tackled led us to not being wrong at all. And on the topics that we worked on, we had good perspectives, and we were often able to find ourselves in an advantage on the competition compared to the international community over many years. So the patents and the opportunities that we missed are, regardless, part of our fixed capital that we need to secure. As you all know, this is something that we produce over the course of the time, and so this has to do with our job, and this is something that will keep happening. And these are examples that show that we have quite the perspective that is interesting to the market and its solutions. We have many other topics, we have many other patents, and we have patents on desalination and green culture. That is still part of our priority for the international endeavors. And so what are the limits of the model for a startup? What are the issues that we meet as a startup? We have limited budget, of course. So when we are a small startup with not enough means to work on financing our operations, we catapult ourselves on standard topics, stuff that costs a lot of money. So it's normal to find ourselves facing such difficulties, and so we have great obstacles to overcome. And so because sponsors might have a reluctance talking to a correspondent that is very small, and sometimes they would be too scared to provide solutions with no proof that they work. And so there are issues related to patient funding when it comes to many startups ending up dead. But at the end of the day, all of these concerns have solutions. Each one has its own solution. No simple solutions exist, but solutions exist nonetheless. The first one is to institutionalize innovation. This means two things. The first one means enabling R&D stakeholders to focus on their core business. This has to do with continuous R&D in a safe, in a peaceful manner without having any financial concerns or anxieties. And the second one is to support patent commercialization. So a good stakeholder to generate patents would not be exactly good to industrialize them, which is why, based on all of this, there are many industrial actors who might show up and take the beacon and go on with the rest of the adventure on any given patent. And that's based on that's when we start talking about the ecosystem of innovation, meaning that making Moroccan R&D stakeholders innovation partners for industry and institutions meet the country's strategic needs. And so this has to do with the power to structure all of this and making it regulated and possible. A stakeholder that would also be a public one, giving you the final say on these technologies. This is where we find ourselves within an entire ecosystem, which is our vision or the main takeaway from my entire presentation, to develop in becoming a partner of innovation for the industrials, for the public, and to serve national interests. Indeed, there is also an access to a structure that would allow us to express our potential, and this is the goal that was checked off the list. I'd like to thank AMC Lab and IMA for having hosted us as part of the absolutely international standards joined by AMC Lab that opened the door for us to do all of this, that was inaugurated recently by His Excellency the Minister present here with us. Thanking you, sir. It's great for us. This is huge. Thank you. This was huge because it allows us to open the door to a framework that is within the most demanding standards, the most demanding international standards, whether aeronautical ones or others. And so this has to do with producing the various innovations to work on an additional cap, to work on the chain of prototyping, industrialization, etc. The last bullet point has to do with opening a public procurement window for innovative solutions, and I'll explain. Now, when you have an innovative solution and when you look at the private sector, the public sector, the way this takes place is by presenting references. And so if you reach innovative solutions, the first correspondent that you suggest to is a public sector one, and so they can't really do much. And so let's say that you have as an innovative solution that you think is the best, and you think that your correspondent understand this. They know that it's the best possible solution. But do you have any references? No. You are the first one. I came to see you. And then they tell me, do you have any solutions to suggest to others? And I say, no, you're the first correspondent I'm meeting with. So, of course, I cannot really say that we need to revolutionize the entire law in order to make this happen. The law is perfect the way it is. It has reasons for the way it was structured the way it is. But would it be possible to open the window on certain aspects with limitations to the budget, with the possibility to have innovative solutions acquired directly by the public sector within the framework to encourage innovation? This would be polished by the topic on the ecosystem and the possibility to open up on the innovation and support from the public sector, where we would find ourselves in a system of innovation that is coherent and that functions within where stakeholders have their own responsibilities and play their role. And this is within an ecosystem that brings around solutions of great elegance related to the Made in Morocco label, because indeed this has to do with finding solutions to Made in Morocco horizontally and vertically to become the country of technologies instead of just trying to catch up with other countries. This has to do with doubling up on opening the door on these new technologies and positioning ourselves on new technologies, which is why the case, which is the case for Morocco to be the first. Thank you very much, Mr. Badr Talib, the General Director of Ambitech. Thank you very much for your presentation and for this fresh take on things. Your Excellency the Minister, please go ahead. This is just about the public part of the presentation. So we have things doing all of these things. So for negotiating markets, if you have a patent, you could launch a negotiation market. And so this has to do with everything related to, I agree with you 1,000,000%. The one idea is when you want to delve into a negotiation market with a patent, you can meet with your correspondent and then based on a patent, they can sign on a negotiation market. I've done this before and I'm just sharing my experience with others. So there is a market for negotiation and so this has to do with the purchaser. And so this has to do with the means to make it happen. So this has to do with the entire value chain, such is the case for what happened 2 years ago and the difficulties that went with it. But for funding, there is a fund for support and innovation that is a bit there. You know, it's not huge, but there is. Yeah, indeed, it helps. That's true. But when it comes to pure innovation, it tends to help on the aspects where we are already big, meaning that it would help on the state of the art. What does that mean? Well, before you submit a patent, you take a 360 look on the entirety of the patents around the world. Well, I'm talking about the funding, the financing. This fund finances this part. Well, no, actually it funds 3 levels. The first one is for all the technical studies on your patent and the expenses that go for your patents. And so for 4 million dirhams, or 55% of your patent, it has to do with linking everything. And so the part of industrialization for pilot projects at 50 million dirhams at 30%. So that's what we thought. Indeed, there is a rationale in the way of thinking about it, but I'm talking about the first level. The other 2 levels become more interesting when the money is flowing in, and so we're talking about a 50-50 situation. At this level, we're talking about something that's quite heavy to work on, and this has to do with the work with our government on the rest of the second half. We would like to just ask you for someone's commitment who would support you throughout the second part, right? So once again, we're not asking you for huge proof or anything of the sort, but for you, we can support you for the second part. It's good to have a partner who would just be able to say that I believe in it and I'll complete it. And so this is about how you use it. It's what we would like to use. We would like to use the first phase because this is something that's quite generous. It's at upwards of 40%, and that's perfect. And so if we arrive at making this pass to the list of what's authorized in the second one when it comes to the true R&D fees and prototyping fees, if we could go to that for the same budget, yes, why not? Perfect. Thank you. We will have a practical case in live, which is a bit of a master class that was instructive and useful. So for such a day that is rich in exchanges with a topic that is part of the nervous system of our entire ecosystem or our industrial ecosystem, I would like to talk to you about economic intelligence and governance. And that's how we were able to invoke the attractivity of the territory and the talents, as well as all of how these assets transform into sustainable success when it comes to the international scene. And that's why we need to understand the house rules and respect them, which is why we need to work on how to make the right decisions and how to anticipate the risks and to seize opportunities. Our panel titled Economic Intelligence and International Competition with a Governance to the Service of Made in Morocco will explore the method through which this invisible software is the key to our future competition.